It's time to dive beneath the surface and into the minds and hearts of your favorite celebrities and pop culture icons. Welcome to Up and Adam.
Hi, guys. Welcome in, everybody. And we have a lot to talk about. Guys, we're going to be breaking down the Real Housewives of Beverly Hills last night's episode. But you know how this works. I can't do this on my own, so I brought on a very special guest. You guys have grown to know him. And if you didn't already know him, I don't know what rock you're living under. I love you guys so much. Please hit that like button and let's welcome Zack Peter. Hi, Zack.
Hi, Adam. How are you?
I'm good. How are you?
I am great.
Oh my gosh, there's so much to unpack here.
I know. Trust me. Look, I got my rosé. I'm already ready to dive into all of this Beverly Hills. I watched it like 4 times.
Oh my gosh, we need more of that rosé. Guys, by the way, Zack has his rosé that has the iconic Housewives sayings on him. And honestly, he sent us a promo package. I know I've said this before, but Jason, I think, took advantage of it. And then by the end of it, we were sending Zack photos and videos of just singing and dancing. It was just a lot. They pack a punch. Let's just say that.
I was living for the videos. They were so great.
Awesome. I love that. Well, Zack, I know that you have some specialty of your own, so we're going to have to jump into that. But if you had to rate this episode, let's just say a 1 to 10, what would you give it?
I think I would give it an 8.5. An
8.5? Okay. That's strong.
It wasn't a full 10 because there wasn't like a real like showdown moment. I think, when Erika threatens Sutton and says, I'm coming for you, that'll probably be the episode that gets the 10. But I thought this was good. Erika gave us a lot more insight into what she's going through. We saw a lot of vulnerability. We got to see some lighthearted, fun moments with Kathy wanting chia seeds and some straws. So like we had a little bit of that comic relief. We had as glam as we can get in La Quinta. And then, we got a little more vulnerability from Erika. So I thought it was a great episode.
I mean, speaking of which, and I know we're going to jump into the Erika stuff, but how hilarious is it the fact that, the women are trying to have a conversation. They're sitting there. They go on their little bike ride, right? Okay. Electric bikes. That really kind of defeats the purpose of getting out there and exercising or anything like that. But I've never been on an electric bike. It seems like a lot of fun. And then when they're out, they stop and Kathy wants chia seeds. She wants chia seeds and a straw. This woman is hilarious to me.
I love that she just like looks at Kyle as like her, since she doesn't have anyone working for her that weekend. She's just like, you know what, Kyle's going to do it. And Kyle's just like, what am I, your secretary, your assistant? Like, what is going on? But Kathy, she did it. Dorit did it. Dorit's like, I want Kathy to remember my name. Let me get her some chia seeds and some straws.
Oh my God. Speaking of which, did you see the Prince on HBO?
No. I mean, I saw the clips that they posted on their social media, but I haven't seen this show yet. Is it good?
It's so good. And they keep on, it's actually super kind of disrespectful to the royal family, but it's funny in its own way. And when they have the Beverly Hills episode, they keep on calling Dorit Delete. And I'm like, you guys are just shady as hell with her name. It's funny. And, we saw that moment with Kathy Hilton when she's like, I've known you for a while. I've seen you at social events and you, my new English friend. They're like, she's not English. She's like, well, whatever. Where are you from? She's from Connecticut, babe. She's like, whatever. Who cares? I'm like, God, I love Kathy Hilton.
She has like zero interest in like actually getting, she's like, I'm here to do my job and to just have fun. And she's like appreciating the process, but you can tell she like does not care to know anybody's names.
No, she's just like, we were in the middle of a pandemic. I had nothing else going on. So here I am.
Yeah.
And I love the fact that she's so willing to come onto the show and dress however, like she's not trying to keep up with the Joneses because she is the Joneses. She doesn't care. So she's going to dress and do whatever she wants. And like she said, we're in the desert. What am I getting glammed up for?
It's true. And like, she's Kathy Hilton. She's lived such like a big glamorous life already. And she has so much money that like, she has nothing to prove to anybody at this point.
I mean, honestly, I just hope that now that the pandemic, we don't know what's going to happen with the pandemic. I just hope that she continues to come on and grace our screens, even if she's a friend of. And I even heard a few people who were like, Kathy Hilton's fighting so hard for her diamond. No, she's not. If Kathy Hilton wanted that diamond, they would be lining up to give it to her. She doesn't need to fight for anything.
Adam, how many Fs does she give? 0, 0, 0. It's just
Okay.
being classy.
Well, speaking of which, we have to jump into that. And guys, before we do, again, there's a poll here. I wanted to know if you guys were Team Erika or Team Garcelle in this episode, because it did get a little heated for a moment. And there's a few things that I want to break down because I didn't necessarily understand. Obviously, we saw this moment where Erika is sharing, that she didn't know what was going on, and that's not what led to her divorce. She's talking to Crystal Kung Minkoff and Garcelle. But when she's talking to them, as they're walking away, she shares the fact that Tom Girardi still calls her daily. Now, this is where I have a little bit of a disconnect. She explains this on camera, but then the very moment that Garcelle brings it up, which that's sort of the algorithm of the show, you say something, then it gets brought up, and then it's in a group setting, and then we talk about it, she gets pissed off at Garcelle.
Are you ready for my tea, Adam?
Gosh, I don't know. Yes.
So what I heard is that moment didn't happen on camera. It was a hot mic moment that happened while cameras were down. And so Erika didn't realize that it had been picked up. And that's why when you see Garcelle bring it up on camera, you see that look in Erika's eyes as like, oh shit, this was caught and now it's being brought up on the show. And that's where you have Crystal having that moment where she's like, we were in the car and Erika told me she didn't want this to come out. So it wasn't, Erika, I don't think was aware, like, yes, she has a mic on, but I don't think she was aware that that was going to be used. And we've seen this happen in Housewives history so many times with hot mic moments. I mean, we saw Barbara, who wasn't even on the show, but she was picked up on Carol's mic when she was talking about Luann's marriage to Tom and how she didn't think it was going to last. So we've seen this happen often. And I think this was Erika's sort of moment of like, oh shit, this was caught. I forgot my mic was on. They heard it, and now it's being brought up in this moment by Garcelle.
Wait a minute. So do you think she said it actually in the car and not when they were walking? Or
she didn't say it when they were walking. That camera, and that's why even if you pay attention to it, because like I said, I watched the episode like 4 times. If you pay attention to their body language, and I know this is common with reality TV, sometimes they use different B-roll shots to make it look like, that's being like, they don't have 4 cameras on them all the time where they can just cut to a different person. Like sometimes the reaction shots are taped after the fact or, weren't in that exact moment. And that's where you get like that Bravo wink where sometimes somebody will make like a funny face. And a lot of the times that funny face wasn't actually caught during that specific sentence. But so it comes in the magic of editing. And so in this case, that was edited to look like that conversation was happening on camera with them walking back on the hike when that didn't actually happen. So that's why, it looks like without that context, it does look like Erika's overreacting in that moment. But if you really kind of pay attention to some of the scenes, look at the body language when they're walking back, when the conversation was supposedly happening, Erika's look of shock when Garcelle brings it up on camera and the camera's on Erika and you kind of see that moment in her eyes, like all of those pieces make more sense once you have the context of the hot mic.
Wait a minute. So wouldn't you think, though, anyways, when they go in these cars, they take the rides and they go to and from when they're on these cast trips, don't they have GoPros like a mother all over these cars?
Usually, sometimes we have yet to actually see any GoPros on this trip. So and the fact that they don't have the footage of her actually saying it in the car shows that they probably weren't filming in the cars, at least not on this trip.
Wow.
Because we don't have any of those. We don't have any GoPro. And we normally do see them going from one setting to the next when they're in the car and they're having those conversations. We haven't seen any of those scenes in the past couple of episodes when they're in La Quinta. So I'm assuming that wasn't something that happened, that was caught.
Wow. Okay. Whew, this is a lot to unpack. So with Erika having this moment and her saying that Tom was calling her daily, I see that, of course, we both know Ronald Richards, and, he's very active on Twitter. And he even thanked Bravo for showing this and letting this be out there because he says that this kind of adds to the list of inconsistencies when it comes to what Erika says on the show to how she's kind of navigating this court process, this legal process. And, just watching it now, this makes so much more sense from what you're saying as to why she would have actually been pissed off at Garcelle. Because when this happened in this scene where Garcelle said, I was just telling the ladies, like, I hope you don't mind. And she's like, actually, I do, but go ahead and have your moment.
Yeah. And I don't think Garcelle meant any. I think Garcelle knew that didn't happen on camera. and was kind of like, now is your moment to be like, you were open and honest with us. Like, I don't think Garcelle meant any harm. I think Garcelle did kind of do her a little dirty, because I just think when somebody tells you something one-on-one, you have to kind of respect that was a conversation that happened one-on-one and let them be the one to bring it up in a group setting. But I don't think Garcelle's intention was to hurt Erika or make her legal situation better. I think Garcelle thought the opposite. She thought that by bringing this up, it would show the women that she's being more open. It would give a little more context into their situation. And Garcelle didn't realize that Erika didn't want it brought up on camera, because Erika did only tell Crystal in the car that she didn't want that information to be shared.
Oh, and then when you look at Garcelle's face, she kind of, it looks like this moment of just feeling defeated. Like, oh, what did I do? Did I just pile on your problems? Like, looking at her face, she was just like, oh man, like, shit, I said something I shouldn't have.
And that could have even been like producer prodding of being like, hey, you know, this wasn't shown, but maybe it'll be helpful to Erika to bring it up on camera. And Garcelle, I mean, we know that kind of happens a lot. Producers don't script it, but they do kind of push certain conversations to make sure that they happen on camera. That way, you know, there is more context to what's going on within the show. Well, go ahead.
Oh, I was just going to say, I see a lot of people in here in the chat saying it wasn't private because Crystal was there as well. It wasn't one-on-one. She should have known better. I'm reading the comments now, and, you know,
that's fair.
Somebody also said, why did Crystal wait for Erika to leave the room to defend Garcelle? Oh, there's a lot of questions here. When this happened and Erika ended up getting mad and walking away, which we have that moment too, she got extremely upset. Do you feel like it was because she knew I might have said too much?
I think so. And I think it was, I don't think she was necessarily upset with Garcelle as much as she was upset with the fact that, one, she said something and didn't realize the mic was on. So I think it was kind of like that, holy shit, I fucked up moment. And then on top of that, it was also realizing that, because I don't think Garcelle, because we know that Garcelle wasn't there when she told Crystal she didn't want it to come up on camera. So I think there was like a slight element of betrayal that she felt from Garcelle, is like, you weren't really there for the full context of that conversation. You weren't, so it was, from what I heard, it was a one-on-one that she was having with Crystal, and Garcelle kind of got pieces of that conversation and then may have been informed more of those details after the fact, and that's why she ended up bringing it up later. But I mean, I think she was more upset with herself, and then realizing that she, you know, had kind of fallen into the mud, and this was now going to be used on the show. I think that was kind of her moment. And I did hear that there was kind of a meltdown that she had with production that didn't end up airing on the show, because obviously they didn't want to break the fourth wall and make it look like production was trying to set up Erika. But I hear that there was a lot more that happened after what we see this episode that we won't be seeing in next week's episode.
Do you think she was begging production, like, please don't air that?
Probably. That's what I would assume the conversation was, of like, please don't air that. I didn't realize that was being said. The cameras weren't on us. Like, I think it was that kind of, you know.
Oh, okay. So now my next question is, Erika made it known in her confessional that, you know, I'm not going to have conversations with Tom because I know that all of this can be used in court, whatever the case is. Like, she just made it known since the day she left, she will not have a conversation with him because of everything that they're going through. Now, do you think that these phone calls will be brought in now? They'll be investigated to see if there were any actual conversations or duration of a conversation that was had, and then they're going to question that as well?
You know, it's really hard because I have heard two kind of conflicting stories about what they can actually use on the show. I just listened to Ronald Richards' interview with Heather McDonald, where he said, you know, you can, and Emily D. Baker, when she was on my show, she also said, like, you can say whatever you want on the show, and it can't necessarily be used against you, because the only thing that matters is what you say when you're under oath in the court of law. Once you put your hand on the Bible and you're like, you know, I swear to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, that's the only thing that matters. So when I'm hearing that they're investigating inconsistencies in her story on the show, I've repeatedly heard from Ronald himself and from other lawyers, Emily included, that what is said on the show can't necessarily be used against her. They can try, but when it's on a reality show, you can do and say whatever it is you want to do and say. If it's not actually submitted into the court, it might not actually be applicable. Now, I'm sure it can lead people, it can lead the investigators to maybe look into certain things. When she brings up different properties, they can look into those properties. Like, they can use it to funnel their investigation, but I don't believe legally they can use much of what she says on the show.
Well, and I've also heard this too. Emily said that to me as well. And then I've heard also that they can actually bring her in court and say, so did, Tom call you? And if she looked and she's like, no, I just said that for the show, they could look and be like, okay, so you lied. So just to be clear, you're a liar. And then kind of because we know lawyers can be vicious and they can kind of try to corner you as best as possible. But it also seems like Erika, after being married to one of the, most powerful attorneys in the United States, it seems like Erika knows how all of this works.
Yeah. She does. And that's why when I hear this criticism of oh, it looks like she's acting, it looks like she's performing, or when people rip her apart for crying with waterproof mascara or not waterproof mascara, I'm just we have to take the context of she does know the legal system. Obviously, she knows she has to have job security. So she has to give us something in order to make sure she gets a contract for next season, because we see housewives that dodge get fired. So she has to give us something, but she also has to be careful to not incriminate herself. And I think last night's episode was one of those moments where we see her realizing that, everything that she does and says is kind of up for grabs. So there may even be more kind of self-censoring or self-producing as the next couple of episodes come on, now knowing that she was kind of caught in this hot mic moment. So I understand people's frustration of not feeling like she's being honest, or feeling like, she's not fully giving us everything. But it's you also have to understand it in the context of a reality show. Things are edited down. Things are chopped up to paint a certain narrative. There are just so many other pieces that come into play. But I mean, I'm surprised that she's giving us as much as she has given us. Whether people want to believe it or not, she's talking a lot more than I think people were expecting her to.
I feel like she's talked more this season than she has in the last 5 or the last 4 before this.
I mean, well, because now, I think in prior seasons, she kind of had to keep up the front of I'm rich and I'm wealthy and I'm a riddle wrapped in an enigma and cash. And, she kind of had to keep up that facade. And now she can't really do that. Now she's getting hit left and right. And, one thing I've talked about with Emily D. Baker a lot on my show is that, this is breaking in real time. We know the scandal in the context of today, but this was back in January, pre-Christmas, right when the divorce first came up and the Edelson PC case first came up, before all the other people started to sue her and Tom, before the bankruptcy, before all the other lawsuits came forward, before the victims, before the housewife and the hustler, before the Rui Gomez family was really brought to our attention. So this is breaking in real time. And I think, we also have to look at it from that lens as well. So when the women are having questions or not questioning things, we have to remember of the place that we were at back in December.
Right. And then, she also said in this episode that she might be leaving the desert early because this is just it depends what other headlines come out. And this is all kind of building up for her and it's stressing her out. Do you think in your mind, especially after this and maybe potentially having a fallout with production, that we will see a next episode where Erika just dipped out?
Possibly. We don't see her too much in the previews of the next episode. We see the women sitting down. We see Sutton being I don't really want to be around her, because that's when the LA Times article broke. What was it? The legal titan and the housewife or something like that. So that's where that article is really the tipping point where all the other lawsuits come out, and it really started to look incriminating for her. So I'll be curious to see what we get from her in these next couple of episodes, because that's where all, eyes then start to really point at her.
Right. And, Sutton has kind of taken a page out of Lisa Rinna's book, because she's talking about this stuff. And we know Lisa Rinna, she loves to get in everybody else's storylines and kind of mix things up, and it kind of keeps the attention away from her. And for Sutton this season, I feel like that's exactly what she's doing. And it's kind of intense, especially the way that she's bringing up the words Ponzi scheme, and also saying I don't necessarily want to be around her. all of the women are looking at her like, did you just say that? You just said that on camera? And she's like, yeah, I don't give a shit. I just said it. I don't want to be, I mean, she didn't say that verbatim, but you can tell she's like, no, this is how I feel. And I'm just going to lay it out there.
Yeah.
Are you here for Sutton this season?
Sorry?
I said, are you here for Sutton this season? Do you like her on the show?
Yeah, I like them all on this show, to be honest. I've never been like a, team LVP or team Lisa. I kind of hate that team culture. I think it's very polarizing, and then people end up fighting, and it just like, it's not that deep for us. Like, it's a reality show, and these are women that are giving us like 20% of their real lives that's being shared on a television show for entertainment. So I don't get too involved in that. I think everybody has an important role to play on the cast, and they're all doing it and they're all bringing it. I think Sutton, she's right and entitled to question these things. She's right to kind of be like, this looks really bad. I mean, had we been in a position with, 5-6 other individuals, and one of them was being dragged in the press like this and was a part of this big scandal, I think we would have a lot of those questions as well. And Sutton being newer to the group and not knowing Erika as well, I understand why her and Kathy may want to distance themselves a little bit more, because they don't have the history that like Dorit and Kyle and Lisa Rinna have with Erika.
Right. No, I get that. And, we also spoke about this a little bit. You did another video when it comes to, I believe it's called the Girardi Trail.
Yes. I've been doing a Girardi deep dive series since January, kind of diving into all of the different elements of this scandal. Okay.
Do you feel like there's anything that you've looked into and questioned that we haven't seen in headlines as of yet?
I mean, I think there are a lot of really big, important pieces to this that go so far beyond Erika. I know we're all focusing on her because of the reality show, but like I just did a deep dive part 2 that I released on my YouTube channel and podcast that really goes into Tom's influence over the California State Bar, some of the people that he had in his pocket that were helping him get away with this for so long. It shows how he was doing this way before the Erin Brockovich case, way before he ever met Erika, that the Erin Brockovich case, people even in that said that they weren't paid from that settlement, which I'm surprised never really got picked up. I believe there was like an article in Salon back in the early 2000s. I can't remember exactly which year. It may have been 2000 that came out saying that there were people that didn't get paid. So the fact that like there were headlines that were coming out about him and complaints. I believe he had 45 lawsuits against him from clients claiming they didn't get their money. 45 lawsuits over the course of 3 decades. The fact that he was able to get away with this for so long, I dive into the way he was able to do that. And he was, it goes into insurance companies and the way that he was lying to the banks and moving money around. We get into his ex-wife, where we find out that in their divorce settlement, he definitely played a lot of games with her in court, but she had to testify. And she testified that she knew that he was bullying the court system, and he would abuse what's called the discovery process, and how he would kind of boast and laugh about how he knew certain loopholes and how he knew how to throw his weight around and use his reputation to actually get what he wanted. And that was to either get these lawsuits settled outside of court or to extend the discovery process so much that a lot of these lawsuits would reach their statute of limitations, and then they would have no grounds to continue pursuing their lawsuit against him. So it's crazy how deep that scheme goes. I know everyone wants to focus on Erika, but I feel like this man was doing this long before her and would likely still be doing this long after her, had it not all kind of come crashing down on him.
Right. And didn't we hear a rumor that his ex-wife would be coming to court for all of this, all of everything that's going on currently too?
Well, his ex-wife died in 2018. His second wife, the one that testified against him, she passed away in 2018. And her divorce settlement was messy. I was like trying to go through all of those documents. I mean, it was maybe like 1,500 pages of different, testimonies and filings and paperwork. It's a lot to get through. She didn't end up with much. And, just similar to Erika's situation, had to end up getting a second legal counsel because she got dropped by her first, because he kind of knew how to use that system against her. She ended up with getting some stuff, but I don't think she ended up with a very big settlement in the end. And she passed away a couple of years ago. So I don't think we'll be hearing from her anytime soon.
Oof. And then I also saw where Dana Wilkie, $25,000 sunglasses. I also saw where she went on and said that she heard that Tom Girardi had a system when he would go into the court and there was like a jury over here, allegedly, right? There was a jury, he would plant, allegedly, people inside of the courtroom who would look and see some of the mannerisms that they would have, or if they'd look away, or if they'd roll their eyes or do whatever. And that way he could get them out of there if they weren't on his side.
Yeah, that's a pretty common tactic that's used in court. So when you are selecting a jury, both parties get to select which jurors they want. So when they're doing the preliminary questioning, if anybody's ever been called in for jury duty, you know, initially they kind of just pull from the public, and then the two parties in court get to ultimately decide who they feel is going to be biased, who they want on the jury. So that's a common tactic that I don't think is exclusive to Tom Girardi. I know I've had to do jury duty twice, and I was very disappointed that I wasn't picked in the final 12 jurors for either case. I wanted to, like, you know, guilty, but, you know, I didn't get to. That's probably why they didn't allow me on the jury. But that's a pretty common tactic that's used in court. I don't think that's exclusive to Tom Girardi.
Okay. And then also, of course, we know that Ronald Richards talked a little bit about the fact that Erika Girardi has now hired her attorneys to not only represent her, but also represent two of the witnesses. I believe one of them is the accountant. Have you heard about this?
I haven't. I usually take what he says with a grain of salt. He was kind of like a big source that I used to use at the beginning, and I even had him on my show. But when I dug into some of these other things, like I know he's trying to connect Erika and Rinna, I think there's a lot of speculation. I think it's a lot of sensationalism, but there isn't always a ton of merit to those things. I haven't heard that. I don't know if that's, I haven't heard that.
Okay. Well, now moving forward, I mean, if you look at everything that's going on with Erika and the Real Housewives of Beverly Hills, like you said, having this hot mic moment, she might be a little bit more reserved and careful as to what information she gives us. But we do know that that threat is coming up when it comes to Sutton. And she lets her know that, you know, I will come for you. And then she lets us know that it's not a threat. It's a promise. We see this in the trailer, unless it's really clever editing. And that's not what she was even talking about in the first place. But what do you think about all of that? And don't you think that's kind of not wise to be throwing out there on the show, especially when you have all of this other shit going on?
I think Sutton's really going to challenge Erika, and it's going to make for a great show, because when the stakes are so high, I mean, we've seen these moments in the past. You know, we saw it in season 2 with Taylor Armstrong and the abuse with Russell, and how, you know, you have these moments that come up that you don't expect them to. And then when you're caught up in that moment and you realize the cameras are on you, you kind of had that fight or flight moment where all rationale kind of goes out the window. And I think Erika, as much as she tries to be very stoic and cold and controlled, she has those moments where she really just snaps. And I think Sutton's really going to push her to that point. And in this sense, like the stakes are really high. You know, this isn't a Brandi Glanville and Denise Richards. Did they have an affair? That's pretty innocuous. You know, it's scandalous, but it's not going to put anybody in jail. Nobody's going to, you know, there aren't these victims that are involved in this big Ponzi scheme. So I think the stakes just get really high that she snaps a lot more. And I think she probably didn't even think about how that may be perceived when she's threatening Sutton. It's more of just like, my life is on the line here and you're questioning me so publicly on camera when I've been so honest with you, or, you know, tried to be as honest as I can be with you. And she's probably going to be less honest with the women now, considering there was this moment with Crystal and Garcelle that was then exposed on camera. And so I think she's going to have her guard up a little bit more just to protect herself legally. So, I mean, I'm going to be curious. I can't wait to see this showdown. It's going to be interesting because I think Sutton isn't always fully made out for reality TV. That's why she kind of had those meltdowns earlier in the season with Crystal. Right. So, I mean, this will be the biggest telling point if Sutton, you know, can handle reality TV, is if how she's going to skirt her way out of Erika. Because we even saw in the previews with Kyle that she was kind of like, oh, these threats are scaring me. I don't want to be around her. And Kyle was even kind of like, come on, are you really that scared? Like, what's Erika going to do to you?
Right.
I don't know what she's going to do to me.
Exactly. You know, but the interesting thing here is Kyle is one of the few, Kyle and Dorit, they seem to really understand that right now they have a lot of questions, but with the whole legal process of it all, she can't really give them all of the answers that they're looking for. And it seems like they're respecting that process, even when Erika is giving them, you know, whiplash with these stories of Tom Girardi got into an accident, flew off the cliff and then was ejected and laid there for 12 hours. But then he also cheated on me within like the same 30 seconds. And they're like, wait, what the hell just happened?
You have to remember, editing is very creative, and what a 2-hour conversation can be edited down into 30 seconds. So again, we just have to remember that context. But I think Kyle and Dorit have both been in legal situations where they've been sued, and those lawsuits have been brought up in the press, and they've kind of been dragged as a result of that. We know, what was it, last season or the season before, when Dorit and PK had their finances questioned, and they were, in a lot of trouble, and they had a lot of debt, and PK was getting sued, and Dorit's assets were frozen as a result of that. So I think they know the legal system, and they know that like you can't really say too much. So they were kind of respecting that, but I'm sure they have a ton of questions, and I think they're even going to push it a little bit too. So we'll have to see how it all kind of plays out.
I agree. All right. Well, I have a few more questions for you. There's like a ringing going on over here. Sorry. I have a few more questions for you when it comes to Erika being on camera, because like you said, Erika probably needs this job. She knows that she has to really give as much as possible in order to keep her position on the show. However, knowing that you're going on camera, you could have like this hot mic moment, and this might not be the best for you. We're seeing the same thing over in Salt Lake City. We know the Real Housewives of Salt Lake City, they're coming back. I believe it's September 13th, right?
Yeah.
September 13th. And Jen Shah was advised against filming and also going on social media. However, she has not stopped either. And she's facing, her circumstances are way worse than Erika's, because while there's victims and everything involved with the Girardi cases, and that's terrible, Erika's not really, as of right now, from what we know, she's not looking at doing any time. And Jen Shah's looking at a potential 50 years in prison. While I know that we've had conversations with Emily and other attorneys who said there's no way she'll get 50 years, she could very well get anywhere from 5 to 10. Do you think it's kind of crazy, the fact that she is continuing to film?
Yes and no. I think she has such a big ego, and she's so delusional that she thinks she can get away from it. Like, it's really hard, especially because I see people really grilling Erika online. And I've had this conversation with Emily of like, yeah, I don't think she's fully innocent, but she also wasn't the one that was committing the crimes and wasn't the one that had a duty to her clients. Like, she wasn't the lawyer. Tom was the lawyer. And I think Tom needs to be held a little more accountable. And I think we have this double standard in our culture to kind of crucify women more than we crucify men. But when it comes to Jen Shah, like, Erika has yet to be charged criminally. Jen Shah has a federal investigation against her. Jen Shah was arrested. Jen Shah has been part of an investigation for several years and has all of these witnesses that are testifying against her, and has been notified of different investigations and questioning her business practice for several years, that at this point, like, Jen Shah is not looking innocent at all. And I think she is probably so delusional to the fact that she thinks she's going to have a Teresa Giudice moment of being able to film and go to prison and have that storyline followed through. Maybe she thinks that this is her only shot at this point, that whatever business she can have after this is not going to happen. Maybe she can start like a Fire Island festival, but I don't know what Jen Shah is going to do, because she's like in a really bad position. The fact that she's still filming, and not just still filming, but like hardcore maintaining her innocence and saying like, free Jen Shah, reposting people that post hashtag free Jen Shah. Like, that to me is just like a whole new level of delusion. And I don't know why people aren't up in arms more about Jen Shah. Because like I said, the feds don't mess around, and the feds are coming for her, and they're coming for her hard. And she's not saying I had a fraction of this. She's not pleading no contest. She's saying I'm innocent across the board. This is a setup.
Right. And, not to mention, again, with some of the conversations we've had with different legal commentators and lawyers, I've even heard too, with the Southern District of New York having a 98%, I believe that's the percentage, prosecution rate, they wouldn't be following through with this if they didn't know they had something on Jen Shah. So her, maintaining her innocence, even Ronald Richards said that there's maybe 1% that she can get out of this without seeing jail time. It kind of might not look the best to the court when it comes to sentencing her, because they might look at her like, oh, okay, so you're not willing to own up to this. You're not sorry. You're just saying that you're innocent. So nothing has gotten through to your head. Okay, this is what you get.
Yeah, it's not looking good for her. She's not doing herself any favors.
Well, everyone's speculating that she'll end up doing a plea deal, Do you think that could happen?
No, because there are so many people that have already taken a plea deal to incriminate her that I don't know if she'll be able. And even if she does, take a plea deal, I don't know who she would be flipping on, because now that they're making it look like she was the mastermind behind everything. So I don't think that's even an option. But if it is, I would imagine jail time is still on the table for her, even with a plea. She would probably have to serve maybe a reduced sentence, but I would imagine she would still have to serve some time. And knowing her, she's going to fight it all the way and not take a plea deal. If she's trying so hard to maintain her innocence, then I think she's really going to fight as much as she can.
Well, and everything that they try to continue to fight through the courts, like my contact, so then I had to give a statement.
How stupid was that? Like, she isn't even she has to be smarter than that if she's running this scheme.
And the fame thing, her attorney said, I feel like the prosecutors are like sort of attacking my client because she's famous and she's been on a show. So she's more well known than the other people who are being investigated. So they keep on throwing these different things at the court and even asking the court to take down this tier sort of program looking little diagram that they put up. And like you said, it puts Jen Shah at the head of the tier A, almost like she's the mastermind. And the court keeps denying all of these requests, which that also makes you think, shit, this doesn't look great. If
they're denying the request, that means they have grounds to deny the requests. Like, it's not looking good for her. She's not well, bitch.
Okay. Well, with that, guys, if you haven't already, go ahead, smash that like button. One last thing is Jen Shah did reveal that she will be at BravoCon. So the same month that she will be going to court, she might be having one last hurrah. And it's not like when she goes to court in October that she will be arrested on the spot and put right in prison if she does get any sort of, if they find her guilty, because they still have to take another, I think it's 60 to 120 days in order to bring her back and actually reveal what her sentence would be.
It's crazy. I mean, the fact that she's even still going to Bravo, like, at least Erika knows to not do any press right now. She needs to get the hell off Twitter. Like, somebody needs to Donald Trump her Twitter account right now. All of her social media, to be honest. But like, Jen Shah is just like a whole new level of delusion.
Oh, all right. Well, we're going to have to wait to see how this plays out. But are you going to be watching Salt Lake City and seeing all of this unfold?
Oh, yeah. Watching it with popcorn and rosé ready.
Oh my gosh. And then also, if we know that it's coming out the second week of September, that means our trailer is coming out either
next week.
You think next week?
I think usually it's 4 to 6 weeks out. We're already past the 6 and 5 week mark. So it has to be this upcoming week.
Oh my gosh. And that I can already see the trailer now where it's like, Jen Shah has been arrested, with like the news, the voices, and then all of the women looking like, what happened? And then of course we're going to meet the new
interrogation.
Yeah, it's going to be this whole dramatic thing. And I mean, rightfully so. This is going to be a dramatic season. It might have just helped the Real Housewives get a few more seasons, actually, because unfortunately, we all know everyone loves a good scandal. And this is one of the biggest scandals in Bravo history.
Yes, it is.
Both biggest scandals in Bravo history. Teresa Giudice didn't hold a candle to these women.
Mm-mm.
And Teresa's probably sitting back like, you guys take it from here. I've done my time. I'm good.
Yeah.
Good. Paid my restitution. You guys have it.
It's all you now.
All right, Zach. Well, with that, I appreciate you so much for joining me. We'll definitely have to do this again in the future, whether it's the finale, the reunion, or maybe even Salt Lake City. We'll have to have you back. I know everybody in the room enjoys you being here as well. So for anyone who wants to find you outside of this video, can you let us know where we can find you?
Yes, you can follow me on YouTube, youtube.com/justplainzack, which is my personal handle on Instagram, justplainzack, or you can follow my show/podcast at No Filter with Zack on the Instagram, and be sure to get my Housewives inspired wine at nofilterwine.com.
nofilterwine.com. And I'll definitely put that in the description of this video, guys. That way you can go check out Zack's Rosé. And I'm telling you, it packs a punch. So if you think the can is little, I think Zack always says this, it's small, but it's mighty. And he's not playing around. We didn't drink before we had the rosé, and that shit does pack a punch. Okay?
12.8% alcohol. It packs a punch.
Okay. Well, Zack, with With that, Zach, enjoy your rosé. It sounds like I've had rosé at this point. With that, Zach, enjoy your rosé. It's only 1 o'clock over here almost. It's not even. It's 12:40. I'm not drinking, guys. I just fumbled over my words. And we'll see you guys next time. Thanks, Zach.
Bye.
Bye. And guys, don't forget, we took the poll, or we put the poll up, and you guys took the poll. It seems like everybody was Team Garcelle, even though Zach did say that he doesn't like teams, and I completely agree with that. Maybe I should have worded that differently. But we were already in the video, so it's not like I could have changed it. And on your way out, don't forget to smash that like button, subscribe to my channel, and we will see you so very soon. We're also dropping a few other videos today, and we're going live today with Dana Wilkie. What the hell is happening? Like, I think I'm drinking rosé today. I'm not drinking rosé, guys. We're going live with Dana Cathan, and she's from Vanderpump Rules. She's a good friend of ours. We're doing that at 7 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. I'm going to go drink some water or something. I need something. This is too much. See you guys next time. Bye, guys.